headline is this. We want to get this information out to you before you really get deep into your day. So let's get right to it and talk about the double trouble in the tropics. We've got two tropical systems out there. One is powerful Hurricane Imelda, a Category 4 hurricane with 145-mile-per-hour winds. Imelda is getting organized. It's now officially a tropical depression with a center of circulation about right here, and it's generally heading to the northwest. I think by the end of this day, it will formally be called Tropical Storm Imelda. Here's the forecast track for both of these systems now, and you can clearly see Umberto curving out to sea as a powerful hurricane as we head through the early part of next week. And to the left of it, of course, is the official forecast track for what will likely become Hurricane Imelda. Notice these two are fairly close together. And one of the big things we've seen change over the past 24 hours is that Imelda has developed a little bit farther south and west than we originally thought, and the big steering area of low pressure over the southeast is a little bit weaker. What that means is Imelda should be slower to come northward. That means Umberto will have a chance to catch up and do what we thought it could do earlier this week and help to slowly pull it out to sea rather than actually making landfall here. That is not a slam dunk yet, but is what we're seeing in the forecast models right now. Let's take a closer look at Imelda here as we head through the next 5 days or so. And this is the forecast track, the tail end of it anyway. And you see forecast to become a hurricane sometime Monday or Tuesday. And then you see this hook to the right here. That would indicate that the upper level low pressure system will not have much of an impact on it by the time we get to the early part of next week. And Umberto may try to tug it out to the east. And that's significant because if you don't have a landfalling tropical system, obviously our impacts will be lower. But it's so close that we're not going to escape completely rain and wind free, although the risk of damaging rain, or actually damaging wind, and a catastrophic flood has been going down over the past 24 hours or so. So let's take a look at the models here. A vast majority of our reliable forecast models show the system slowing down, perhaps even stalling, and then gradually heading on out to the east. But you can't discount some of the reliable models still showing some sort of a landfall in South Carolina or Georgia into the early part of next week. So we're still talking 3 or 4 days away, so things very well could change. At this point in time, though, it does appear the best chances are that Imelda will eventually head on out to the east. Again, though, you can't let down your guard, and the reason for that, the steering flow, it is complicated. We've got this upper level low pressure system, big ridge of high pressure over New England, another dip in the jet stream over the northwest Atlantic, and then, of course, this area of high pressure out near Bermuda. And then you throw in another hurricane, that being Umberto. All 5 of these competing forces exerting influences on Imelda. And if one of these or a couple of these are not in the right position, not as strong or a little bit weaker, that could change the overall forecast for Imelda. Right now, though, it does look more encouraging. But I will caution you, we can't put this in stone quite yet. So based on what we've seen today in the official forecast from the National Hurricane Center, what would impacts look like around here? So for Monday, there's tropical moisture flowing well ahead of Imelda, especially with our front stationary near the coast. So showers do become likely on Monday. Some of those could be a bit on the heavy side as we head through Monday night and into the daytime on Tuesday. It's very possible we'll have widespread showers across the area. There could be pockets of some heavier rain as well. But at this point in time, it looks like the extremely heavy rainfall that would lead to catastrophic flooding should stay just off the coast, especially if this eventually does head to the east here as we head through Tuesday, Wednesday. So what kind of rainfall totals are we talking about? The Euro model yesterday, if you remember, was showing almost 20 inches of rain. Even it is now showing this system going a little bit farther to the east. So that significantly reduces the amount of rain across our area, at least based on these two models. We're looking at anywhere from 1 to 5 inches of rain. And you know what? That is not a bad thing at all. We are in a drought. This would be a solid soaking. Minor flooding would be possible, but more than anything else, it would really help to bust the drought. You hear it all the time, especially from old timers. You know, a low-end tropical storm coming ashore brings beneficial rainfall, and that's how we keep our water table up through the summertime, sometimes with these tropical systems. So this is encouraging news as well. All right, what about the wind? You'll notice here, twin hurricanes out there, this being Imelda, this being Umberto, out near Bermuda. And I kind of laugh here because if you look real carefully, what does that look like? It looks like E.T., doesn't it? Or for some of you, Sid from Ice Age, and others were saying Wall-E from the movie, if you remember that. Anyway, notice the highest winds would stay offshore as well. If you believe this model, we would see wind gusts in the 30s, maybe into the 40s, but the damaging hurricane winds would stay off the coast. But this is so close. Again, 50 miles can make all the difference in the world. So until we're confident this is going to happen, we got to keep our guard up and at least plan for the possibility of a hurricane force wind, although that is less likely now. And once again, Umberto should help pull this system out to the east over time. All right, let's talk about the impacts here one more time. Most likely the rain coming in on Monday, sticking around through Tuesday. Depending on how quickly the system actually does begin to move to the east, we could have some lingering rain into Wednesday as well. But after that, we should be in the clear from any tropical systems whatsoever. So widespread showers appears to be likely. Some of that rain could be heavy. At least on what we're seeing right now, it would lead to minimal flooding, and more importantly, it would be a drought-busting rain for sure. Damaging winds, it's less likely now than it was 24 hours ago, when we would mainly see wind gusts in the 30s and 40s. Again, that is not damaging wind and barely into tropical storm force wind category. The tornado threat, there would not be a tornado threat at all, because you would want to be in the northeast quadrant if you wanted to see tornadoes, and I can't imagine anybody does. But with the system offshore, we're northwest of the system, so we would not have to worry about tornadoes at all. Of course, if the unthinkable happens and it turns more to the left and makes a direct landfall, that would change the tornado threat as well. And for those of you that are along the coast and worry about storm surge, at this point in time, I don't see a big storm surge being pushed to shore, but you got a couple of hurricanes out there. They are going to generate big swells. The water is going to come up. There will be some coastal flooding around the high tides especially. But I don't see anything like some of the bigger hurricanes we've had in recent years and the storm surge that they actually produce. And of course, there will be beach erosion with bigger waves, and that will get underway as early as Sunday, but more likely Monday, Tuesday, and likely into Wednesday and Thursday as well, because it's possible if this thing's moving very slowly, it's going to be off the east coast of the Carolinas, slowly moving away all week long. But the farther it gets away, the less the impacts are around here. All right, so that's kind of everything I had to say about Imelda and Umberto. Hopefully you understand exactly what we're facing at this point in time. The news is encouraging, but I'm going to say it again, and I know I say it often. You're probably getting sick of hearing it. Don't let your guard down. Every 6 hours, we're getting new model information so we can monitor the trends. Is this a trend that will stick around? Or could it actually reverse itself and go back to a landfall? That is possible, so we'll just see how things go. And I know that after this Facebook Live, brand new models will be coming in, and I'll post another update on Facebook and at WPDE.com around 2:30 to 3 o'clock, so you'll want to tune in for that. Of course, meteorologist Alex Cordero is here this morning, did a fantastic job on Good Morning Carolinas. We appreciate him, and Alex has been monitoring your questions, so if you do have any questions that I haven't answered, now's the time to ask them. Alex, what do you got?
All right, so one of the questions that I've seen is if we'll see watches or warnings. Is that something that is a big deal, or will we avoid them?
So it's possible we'll avoid them altogether if the system does do exactly what the forecast is showing now. But it wouldn't surprise me if tomorrow night or into Monday, a tropical storm watch is issued for the Grand Strand. Not a guarantee. Of course, if the models change and we see it heading back to the west, even a hurricane watch could be issued for the early part of next week. So we'll be watching that. Don't be alarmed if a tropical storm watch is issued, though, because that's very possible, even if it begins to track farther out to sea.
Obviously, when it comes to something like this, you aren't in charge of closings or whatnot, but is that something you predict as a possibility early next week?
Listen, I know that the airlines, I know that our school officials and county officials are all watching this like a hawk. They're the ones that make those decisions in the best interest of your kids and your family. So we get their information, we pass it along to you. I have nothing to do with any of the closings or delays when it comes to airports, flights, or, of course, schools. So I haven't heard anything. As of now, everything is operating as usual come Monday. I'm sure they're going to meet tomorrow, though, to see how things are still looking and then decide from there.
Another question is, how strong can Imelda get? Is Category 1 the peak here?
At this point, it looks like mainly a Category 1. I've seen one or two models of a vast amount of models that show it becoming a Category 2. That's if it were to avoid the shear that's expected to be closer to the East Coast here. In addition to the shear, the thing is really going to be lopsided. All the heavy rain is north and west of the center. The south part of the center may be void of rain altogether because as they're moving up the coast, it's going to draw some very dry air in off the continent. And as that gets ingested, it often erodes the rain on the south end, and it also keeps it from really taking off and becoming a major hurricane like we saw with Hurricane Imelda. No dry air out there, just tons of moisture, light wind shear, and it took off. It's pretty amazing that we've had 3 hurricanes so far this year, and all 3 of them have reached at least Category 4 strength. Of course, earlier in the year, Aaron actually made it to Category 5. It seems like with hurricanes this year, it's go big or go home, and we just hope Imelda doesn't get really, really big. Although if it stays far off the coast and is moving away, it can get